Hi, you're listening to Oh Crap with Jamie. This is a podcast for parents working hard to break the cycles while dropping the F-bomb a lot. I'm your host, Jamie Glowacki, and I am the author of Oh Crap Potty Training and Oh Crap I Have a Toddler. And I am so happy you're here.
Hey guys, welcome. All right, I want to talk some more about food. Food. Love talking about food. I just got back from a trail walk where I decided to walk barefoot. I don't often walk barefoot. I do it like on the grass, but I was like, oh, let me ground myself in the pine needles. Oh, it was heavenly. I did like 2 miles barefoot. I have sap all over the bottom of my feet. My sheets are going to be gross, but I feel good and rejuvenated for this podcast. Yay. So I've been talking a lot about food and not overthinking food. And I do a weekly email. If you're not on that, you can sign up on my website, and I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes, which I always forget to do. And so I asked in my email a couple of weeks ago, I asked like, hey, do you guys know how to cook? Because I feel like when I talk about food, I feel like I'm almost experiencing a generational difference. So I'm 57, Gen X, squarely Gen X. My mom was squarely boomer. Her mom was squarely Depression era. We didn't have like a lot of prepackaged food. The hostess was making snacks. Kellogg's was making cereal, but it wasn't like a part of our lives. And as far as I know, it wasn't a part of like a lot of people's lives. You know, it was new on the scene. And moms really seemed to know like, yeah, we shouldn't really be eating those. At least, I don't know, at least the moms that I came into contact with and my mom's friends. And I think they were just perfectly average. And they were expensive. And so I just didn't grow up with snacks like that. Like we just had a piece of fruit, always seasonal. Food was grown closer to us. I remember even cows, like our cows, we didn't have the huge factory farming that we have now. We didn't have huge monocropping. So even the markets didn't have such variety. We didn't have candy the way we have it, the chips, the crackers, all that. We actually lived not next door, but we lived in the same town as a potato chip factory. So like once a month we'd get a box of potato chips, and it'd go stale like halfway through the month. And that was like a big deal if my mom put that in our lunch. So, and I learned how to cook, but it's not like my mom and I have like learned how to cook. Like we didn't have these like fabulous mother-daughter Sundays where she showed me how to do things. It was more like there was always hot food on the table and we took part in that. And my mother, in formative years, my mom was time poor and my mother was financially poor. So we were starting dinners at 11 years old, or 12 years old. We could put things in the oven while she was at work. She would often have us throw in a roast or attend to something in a crock pot. And she knew how to stretch a dollar and she knew how to make time. So when we talk about food, I want to talk about those things because they're like the ultimate time-saving devices, right? That we're not really utilizing in our busy lives. So it's come to my attention because I'm talking so much about food and eliminating snacky snacks and cooking real food. And I realized a lot of people had been contacting me, DMing me, that they don't know how to cook. So I sent out an email and I was like, all right, you guys, where are we at? Do you guys know how to cook? Do you guys know, do you need meal ideas? And the response was overwhelming. And I love it. Okay. I love when you guys respond, especially if I ask you for feedback. It was overwhelming in how many people needed help and people. And it ranged a huge gamut of people who just don't even know how to roast a chicken to, people really, giving me a lot of information, a lot of specifics, and like what works for their family and what doesn't. Now, so I'm going to go over the broad strokes, some very broad strokes. And I'm not doing meal planning. Like I think a lot of people responded almost like, yes, I need meal ideas. I have these allergies. My husband doesn't like this. My son doesn't like that. I'm not going to do meal planning for you guys. I can't know possibly what all your families like. So what I want to do is give you a framework and a structure for making meals easier. Okay. But first and foremost, I want to read verbatim. For most of this podcast, I'm going to take like amalgamations of people's replies. I have aggregated all the information and replies and gotten some broad strokes, but I do want to read one part of one email verbatim because I really think it's important and it encapsulates a lot of what's happening. After writing an email of like her particular issues, this mama said, "This whole thing makes me feel stressed and pathetic because obviously people throughout history have found a way to feed their kids, and we shouldn't be struggling this much with it. But my mom was a stay-at-home mom who cooked us whatever she felt like without ever feeling guilty. And I think this might be just a thing I need to work out in therapy and get over. I'm not sure if it helps you know where to start, but I can't be the only person who feels this way." No, mama, you're not. And I would venture to say that most of you listening also can feel this way. And what really struck me was, yes, for generations and eons, we have been feeding our kids. So what the hell happened? And like she said, her mom cooked dinner, put stuff on the table. She didn't consult with people. She did not ask everybody their opinion. This was dinner, and dinner is served. So one of my favorite people to work with is Kate Pope. She's been on this podcast. She's the wild nutritionist. I always recommend people to her if you are really interested in fixing root cause picky eating, even severe picky eating or skin issues. You need gut microbiome balancing, and she is wonderful for that. But Kate Pope really, really pulls into mom's authority over children's health. And it's really wild. Like she and her husband agree. So I trust that moms, and I'm not saying moms have to be the ones in the kitchen, but we have authority over how to nourish our families. And I really do believe that to be true. And I think it is one of the greatest gifts we can give kids. And I feel like societally, we're being pulled in two directions. No, I'm not going to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. Being in the kitchen somehow has taken on that quality, like that you're submissive and in the kitchen and, that's all you're good for. Or or nothing at all, right? And so we feel this pull of, I don't want to be in the kitchen. I want a career. I wanted this. I want to be out on the weekends. I don't want to be stuck in the kitchen. And yet, what do we want more than anything? We want our kids to feel nourished and full. We love seeing them eat, right? Food, I don't think food is love. And I think equating food with love gets us into trouble. But when we nourish our families, I think that equals love. Yes, I think when your kids eat, you're cooking, and you can tell that it hits their bodies, and when you've made a really delicious meal that like satisfies. And when I say delicious, I don't mean elaborate. I mean nourishing and like I love salmon raw. I just had raw salmon and then I crisp up the skin. I feel almost high because I can just feel like the vitamins and salmon just is so nourishing. The vitamin D, the salmon skin, so many nutrients. Okay. And that feels wildly different than if I shove some snacky snack that comes out of a package that is produced in a factory. That is a different feeling. Okay. And so as moms, I think we're torn between this, right? We're eschewing this whole like be in the kitchen, but we want the results of having been in the kitchen. So we're at odds with this. Now, I think the other thing is that one thing that has happened in our society is we have decided to put food last. It is now backburnered. Food is the thing we have to squeeze in, where I think food should be the foundation of everything. The kitchen is the heart of the home. I feel like a good meal is the way you start anything. How can your kids go to sports if your kid's living on prepackaged snacks and Gatorade? That's not setting up an athlete for good. Obviously they can burn the calories. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about nourishment. Yes. Eating in the car, terrible for digestion, right? And so we've set it up that food is the absolute last, but we want to do all the other things except feed our kids. And that backs us into a corner of having to eat takeout or shelf-stable food all the time, packaged food all the time. And definitely both those things have their place. But for that to be daily, somebody commented on Instagram that they have two small children. Mom works, dad works, and she wants to cook every night. And every night she fails, and every night they order takeout. That's a lot. That takeout's terrible. You don't know what's in your food, right? But the other thing is the expense in this economy. And I don't care how much money you make, like every time you don't eat out, put that money in a Roth IRA for your kids and then set them up so that they'll be a millionaire at 40. That's a great place to like save some money. But also, are you actually, when you're ordering takeout, I think takeout or restaurant should be almost like that's where you try the recipes. That's where you get the elaborate food. I eat out. I just was realizing I eat out like once every 3 months, maybe. And it's for an event. And that's where I'll get something elaborate that I'm not making at home. At home, I eat ground beef with fermented vegetables on it. That's it. Okay. And so I think that's part of it is this like, yes, for eons, people have fed their kids because for eons, food was the most important thing up until about, I want to say like maybe the last 10 or 20 years, food was absolutely the most important part of parenting. Right? Nourishing your child. And somehow now, because of all these other offerings, and a lot of this is marketing, you guys, and I hate when marketing works. I hate when it can like brainwash people into thinking food should be convenient. Food should be easy. Food should be uniform. Food should be on the go, right? Because you're busy, because you're a socialite, because you've got things to do. How sad is that? Like that, I think that is sad that we've come to this place in our society. And I've said this on numerous podcasts. If you are single or both parents have tough careers, work till 5 or 6 o'clock, you don't, that is whether it's a choice or not a choice, it doesn't matter. You have to eschew with more activities. You have to give up more activities so you get to spend time with your kid. So you get to cook meals and be with your kid in connection in the kitchen at home, right? If that's how your life is, you have to choose differently for your off time. And what I'm finding across the board is a very young mindset in a lot of parents. This was a resounding response in these emails. I don't want to cook every night. I am not taking time on my weekend to prep food. So I don't know what to do then. Right? If you don't want to take time to prep food, but you don't want to cook every night, which I understand. I don't think anybody should be cooking every night. I think that's a lot. I think you should be assembling. I think you should be reheating, but I don't think everybody should be cooking from scratch every night, especially if you work or are single. Okay. But then something's got to give. Okay. Because otherwise you will be ordering takeout or a lot of prepackaged food, which will decline your health will decline and behavior will decline. Absolutely. So on that note, let's start there. So again, a lot of times what we're looking at is either, I think we just have to be better at being poor, really, whether that's time poor or actually financially poor. In this economy, I think a lot of people are poor. I mean, a lot of people assume that I'm an author and I'm rich. That is not the case. I wouldn't say I'm poor, but I definitely know how to stretch a dollar. And I definitely learned from my family how to stretch a meal. So I think those are important skills in a shitty economy. And I personally, I've always taken time on Sunday. Sunday was always my day, my putter day, and I would cook. And I would cook, casserole meals that can be portioned out and frozen. So those, quiches that can be frozen. So here's the framework I want to give you. You don't necessarily have to cook huge meals, okay, to batch cook. So a lot of people said, I don't want to stay home on the weekends to cook. Okay. Then maybe one night, if you're serving, say, lasagna, you make a lasagna, you make 2 or 3 at the same time. Minimal extra work. Now you have frozen meals for later, next week or something. Okay. So that is a possibility. If you're making soups or chili or stew, can you double the recipe and freeze half of it? That is another way to do it, okay? If you don't want to take time. What I have always done is I don't meal prep. Like that isn't the thing for me. What I do is proteins, carbohydrates, and vegetables all of those get cooked ahead of time. And I used to do this when I worked outside the home and Pascal was little. If you are a new listener, you may not know this, but I have been a single mom the whole time, all me 100% of the time, not divorced, no split time. And of course, I've worked full time. And I am not a trust fund baby. I am not independently wealthy. I work. I don't sit on my ass all day. I sit on my ass a lot more because of podcasting. So I've always had my back against the wall. The idea here, guys, number one, not to overthink food, but to create a system that makes your life less exhausting. Okay. And so if that means taking 6 or 7 hours on the weekend to prepare some food so you have a good stress-free week in which you get to connect with your kids every night, you don't feel the pressure of cooking meals, I would say that's an excellent investment in time and energy. Okay. If you don't want to miss out on things, I hear a lot of parents talking about FOMO and not missing out. And I'm going to be very, very strict with you right now. FOMO is for teenagers. FOMO is not for grown adults. You are now the adult. You are now the parent. You are in charge of little human beings. Okay. So to have FOMO and not want to miss out on anything that everybody's doing, you will absolutely 1000% be stretched too thin, which will make you a worse parent. And that is a hard truth. So part of being a parent is being an actual grown-up and making choices that may be shitty in the moment, but make your life easier. If your week is leaving you crashed out, so your weekend has to be just like get me out of the house, I want to eat out, I don't want to do anything, then you need to reevaluate your life. Like seriously, okay? Because I'm just finding that a lot of parents are stuck in this like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. And yet I want magically my child to not be a picky eater. I want them to have a great palate. I want them to have nourishing food, but I don't want to cook and I don't want to prepare food. Okay. Okay. But an excellent way to do that again is to double up all your recipes and freeze. That would be an awesome thing. Okay. What I have always done is cooked up my proteins. This was a lot of you answered these emails and said, I always do a protein, a veg, and usually a starch, a carbohydrate, but I need ideas. That's it, guys. That's the whole idea. That's the whole shebang. It lies in that. That's it. So you take your protein, cook up various proteins. So it could be chicken. Pascal and I like chicken thighs. I also do a whole chicken at least once, if not twice a week. A whole chicken can easily go in the crock pot. Easily. You don't even need any spices. I don't usually spice it because I'm going to make broth out of it. I'm going to use the chicken in various ways, and I might do something for Maverick out of that. So I don't even use salt and pepper. Goes in the crock pot. Boom. Done. You put that on before you leave for work. It's done when you get home. You can take that meat off the bone. You can shred it. It can be served just as chicken. It can be chicken salad. It can be chicken nuggets. It can be chicken. It can be anything. A hunk of chicken with a little dipping sauce is dinner. Call it a day. That's it. Okay. I think what is happening is people are thinking not just elaborate meals, but that everything has to be a recipe. Scrambled eggs and toast can be dinner. Sandwiches can be dinner. For your toddler, a chunk of chicken, a couple of carrots, and a scoop of mashed potatoes can be dinner. Protein, vegetable, carbohydrate, fat. That's it. Guys, that's the secret sauce. So I would always, do a chicken. You can do a roast. Same thing. Throw it in the crock pot. By the time you get home, it's melt off the bone. Now you have a great pile of meat. You can make anything. You can make burritos. You can make quesadillas with that meat. Same thing with the chicken. I always do 2 pounds of ground beef with taco seasoning. That just lives in a bowl. Pascal can make burritos. He can make, quesadillas. He can make taco bowls. He can just have it on the side with something. I do that too with ground turkey or ground chicken. I'm always making in the winter, I will have a roast. I like to do it low and slow. If you're home, you can do it low and slow. I usually put a roast in. I get up at 4 a.m. and it's done by 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's what I'll have for breakfast. I think breakfast foods are a scam. I don't do breakfast foods at all. Never have. Never have it with Pascal. A roast will sit on my stove all day. I'll make a pot of mashed potatoes and he can feast off of that. Historically, before any big events, we always have pot roast. It's like high calorie. It's very filling. It's satiating. There's a good fat content. It's perfect before Halloween. It's perfect before, Thanksgiving. And so that's what I have always done. Then you can also, that meat is just delicious anyway. You can just have it with some mashed potatoes, some rice. It doesn't have to be complicated. Then vegetables, whatever vegetables your family likes, you can parboil. Pascal always liked broccoli, peas and carrots. So I would just cook those. They'd be ready to go, just ready to be reheated with a little butter and salt. And that was that. That is enough. That is enough. And I think, judging by the response of these emails, so many people said, I'm just tired of doing a protein, a vegetable, and a starch. And I'm like, but that's it. If you go out to eat, that's the basis of all meals, a protein, a vegetable, and a starch. So there's no reason to be tired of it. I don't know exactly what you guys are looking for, but there's no reason to get tired of it. Now, the next thing, a broad category that came up in these emails was, I don't want to wear out good recipes, and we're bored. We don't want to eat the same thing. If you are bored with food, it means you're not hungry. And I'm just going to say that plain. Food is not entertainment, and we use it as such, which is why 93% of the population is metabolically unwell. We have a crisis going on with food. And I think that it is one of those it's one of those things that we get confused. If you're confused about food, I would honestly just get off social media. It's so confusing. And when I work with clients who are confused about food, it is because they're getting too much information. And I am not confused about food. And if I scroll on Instagram, I can become confused about food because everybody's a freaking expert. And the reality is we just need protein. I don't particularly go for starches, protein, vegetables, and I'm fine. Okay. I think if you are truly just getting bored with food, I don't know what to tell you, but I can see that it can be like too plain. You can always spice things up. Garlic powder and onion powder are the best things. You get combination of spices. So if you like Thai food, figure out the Thai spices and buy spices in like clumps of flavors, Italian spices. Recently I just got into ramen and I went to the Korean market and not the Korean market, the Asian market. It has all different kinds of Asian food. And that's a whole group of spices and chili oil and rice vinegar and a different palette. And you can absolutely do that. But again, if you're just trying to get through the early years of parenting and just get food in your kid and be done with it, like just have meals on repeat. There's no reason to have more than 7 to 10 meals. Figure out what meals your family likes or even what proteins they like and just make a list on the fridge. You could make a mix and match list of like, oh, okay, we like this. Maybe for your kid, just figure out like, oh, they like chicken and meatballs. Those are 2 great proteins. Make them a little plate with 2 meatballs, a hunk of chicken, and that's it. What vegetable will they entertain on their plate? They don't like vegetables right now. Who cares? Put a little piece of fruit on it. Don't make a big deal about it. Just make a plate with a little bit of variety, and that will be great for your toddler. For you and your spouse, you can make something a little bit more elaborate, but you don't have to. And so another person wrote something about, I'm just, my mom taught me how to cook things like mashed potatoes and meatloaf, but I just don't think London broil and spaghetti is an appropriate meal anymore. And I'm like, London broil and spaghetti is an awesome meal. Like, why wouldn't that be a good meal? You got a protein and you got a starch. Like, who cares? So we're over here. Like, I'm not exactly sure what you guys are looking for because you guys are naming it. You're like, yeah, I'm doing a veggie protein and starch, but like, what else? I need something else. Maybe a dipping sauce, some ranch, some honey mustard. Like, I don't know. So just for the record, I eat very plain. I eat like sauteed ground beef. I love fermented vegetables. I have a whole bunch. I just found a new company called Easy Pickles, and I try fermenting them myself, which is easy enough to do, but I just end up buying them. And real ferments, um, you want it without vinegar. You want the actual fermentation. It's really good for the gut microbiome. And so I'll just have a bowl of ground beef with some sauerkraut or kimchi on it, and it's so good. The thing is I've gotten away from food having to be entertainment, and I wait till I'm hungry. And I think that's a huge portion of why our kids don't eat and why we don't eat. I think it's all the snacking. So I really don't snack, and I'm hungry for my meal. And when you're truly hungry, guess what? You don't get bored. You don't get bored because you're like, oh, that sounds good. And if you're eating before you're truly hungry, you could be hangry, which is a blood sugar dysregulation, right? In which case you're like, oh, I need food right away. Then you're going to, you'll be on that roller coaster for a while. But really think of nourishing and not entertaining or like suiting your palate, suiting your tongue. Because that's, I think, where we get into trouble. Don't get me wrong. If I could eat something without any ramifications, it'd be French fries and ice cream. I like that shit's good. But I feel like crap if I eat that all the time, right? So that was another thing, getting bored with meals. I did have quite a few people ask for vegan and vegetarian. I am not vegan, vegetarian. I am not your girl. I don't think it is healthy for children. I think if your child says they don't like meat, a lot of times it's a texture issue. We overcook meat. So I have always served, and I've worked with a lot of picky eaters, and helped their parents fix the picky eating by undercooking meat. If you freeze anything for 24 hours, you will kill the bacteria, the parasites. I've been doing this for 25 years, never gotten sick, never had a kid get sick. Salmon undercooked or raw is a totally different animal. It's so tasty. It's silky. It's so smooth. Meat, I would always help kids learn to eat raw meat because it is, it's the texture is so different and it's so much more flavorful and it's so easy for them to chew. So a lot of times the meat is prepared so well done that the kids have to like chomp on it, get stuck in their teeth, and it's a very unpleasant experience. And so very often that's what's happening. I think the human body needs animal meat and saturated fat, and I think particularly children for brain development and good digestion. You are free to disagree or unfollow me, but I don't have any suggestions because I don't think it's good for children. And I see so many clients with poop problems from vegan and vegetarian kids. They just get too much insoluble fiber. Their bellies are distended. Their colons are distended. It's just not for me. So I'm sure you can find lots of other people on Instagram or whatever to give you examples for what you might be looking for. What else? I found a very discouraging, pretty uniform thing in a lot of these emails, these replies, which were, my husband doesn't like X, Y, and Z. My husband won't eat leftovers. My husband won't do this. My husband won't do that. Ladies, if you're catering to your husband in that respect, like, yes, I think it's good to, when we love somebody, to take their likes and dislikes into consideration, of course. But I want to remind you, your mom probably put whatever she wanted on the table, as that one woman wrote, right? And that one mom. To have a home cooked meal for you and start complaining about that is odd for me as an adult. But also, if your husband is that fussy, then your husband needs to be cooking and helping prepare. So I don't think it's fair that you might have, 2 or 3 kids under the age of 5 and you're catering to a grown-up's testy palate. That doesn't seem fair at all to me. I also just thought it was very discouraging to hear. It doesn't sound like a partnership. It sounds like more work on the mom to work around dad's likes and dislikes. And that seems like an awful lot of work. So do with that what you will. But I was pretty disheartened and shocked by the amount of replies that did say something along those lines. And it does sound like the parents are drowning. So, and then the last thing was the picky eating. I have done a couple of episodes on picky eating. I will try to remember to link those in the show notes. Picky eating is way on the rise, you guys. It's a crisis, and our kids are hurting. Their behavior is hurting. Their health is hurting. I fear. Sometimes I get so bummed out about it. I start crying. I have to purposely keep myself grounded. Our kids are going to die before us. Like the way we are literally giving them just junk. And I know there's so much to this conversation, and I know, a lot of people talk about neurodivergent. I know that RFID is a thing. RFID is extreme picky eating with different parameters. It's quite a different animal. I know that exists. I also know that a lot of people are like, oh, my neurodivergent, my kid has ADHD, my kid is autistic. You don't understand. I don't understand because I'm not a mom. My child is not autistic. My child does not have a diagnosis. What I do understand, though, from my work is that eating well, it's worth pushing the envelope because it helps symptoms, whatever your child's diagnosis. And I'm not saying that food will cure autism or cure ADHD or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that whatever your child is exhibiting, whatever behaviors and patterns and symptoms, for lack of a better term, your child is experiencing, those can be much more under control with good nutrition. I also speak to a lot of neurodivergent adults who say, I wish my parents had focused on this more. I have to be extremely strict with my nutrition. It keeps my OCD in check. It keeps my ADHD in check. It helps with my autistic behaviors. And so when we hear that from adults, we know it's good information. I also have a good friend who has a daughter with quite a lot of diagnoses. She jokingly says she's an alphabet soup. She's got all the letters. And this mom, I admire her so much because she constantly pushes the envelope. For her, truly, and I talk about this a lot, neurodivergence, any label your child gets, any diagnosis is a roadmap to how their brain works and how you may approach things slightly different. It is not a carte blanche card to get out of crappy behaviors and to give your kid, to allow them to be picky. And I know textures, I understand all of it, but I know parents who are working at this and who are successful. So it's worth pushing the envelope, okay? Because nobody's picky. Nobody's picky with pot roast and broccoli. Nobody's picky. It's always uniform, packaged, ultra processed, highly palatable food. Okay. And I know there's so much chatter about this online. I'm not saying food. I hate this argument. I hate this argument of you don't assign moral value to food, good or bad. No, I don't assign moral value to something that's inanimate. I don't. But I do assign moral value to how shit feels in my body. And there's good and there's bad. And so that's what I assign to food. And a lot of times when I'm working with a family and we go, these families are hurting. Their kids are eating completely different than everybody else. They have to pack special snacks. It's always snack foods. It's always prepackaged, hyper palatable, ultra processed food. And I say to the parents, okay, what if you ate what your child eats in a day? Bigger portions because you're an adult, but what if you ate the same quality of food and they're like, oh my God, I'd feel awful. And yet somehow we have no problem giving it to kids because we're so busy. I think this is the thing. And I'm not saying you're a bad parent. I'm not saying you're not backed into a corner. I understand how it happens, but so much of this circles right back to that freaking fact that we are creating lives that don't take our kids into account, that don't allow us to hold boundaries because we're so exhausted. We're so stretched thin. We think we've got to do everything. We've got the high-powered career. We've got the our kids in sports, our kids in enrichment. We're going to all the things. We belong to all the clubs, and now we don't have a minute to breathe, and we don't have a minute to hold a boundary about food. So I understand how it happens, but we can control it. Okay, like I said before, I think a lot of picky eating starts with textures, particularly with proteins. So remember that. Pascal used to be very vocal about it. So it was easy for me. He would say you scrambled the eggs too hard. And there was a way to scramble them softer, and he liked them kind of a little undercooked, you know? He liked all his proteins a little undercooked. And so that became, it just was easier to chew. But so much of picky eating is because we allow it. It literally is because we allow it. And with all extreme picky eating aside, there is so much run-of-the-mill picky eating. Somewhere around 2 or 3 kids become selective. They just want certain things. So my advice is, number one, don't give them certain things. I have always been flummoxed when people come to me and say, we're down to 3 foods: fig bars, Pop-Tarts, and Frosted Flakes. Those are the only 3 foods my kid will eat. Then at some point you offered those foods. That's how your kid knows about it. At some point, those foods were in your house, and you feeling like, oh my God, I got to give my kid something, you offered those foods, and those became the foods. At some point, they knew those foods existed. Okay. And so in so many cases and I have an excellent track record of working with picky eaters. Okay. And literally 99% of the time, it's stop buying it and stop putting it within reach of your child. So many of these kids have a snack cupboard, a snack drawer, and you buy it. Okay. So if you don't buy it and it's not in your house and your child doesn't have access, it no longer becomes a part of their daily life. And for me, I just always get a little confused by this because I'm like, just don't have it. That's not restrictive. In what universe do we get treats every day? I mean, I guess you could, but that's not good. They're treats. They're special things, right? I said this about October, like Halloween. Halloween is a special thing. Eat all the candy. Christmas, eat all the cookies. But we don't have you don't need a treat. You don't need stickers for doing good. No, I'm on board with stickers, but you don't need a treat every day. And we don't need dessert every day. That is the weirdest thing. That's the thing that changed. Like, we did not have that. Like, now kids are like, what's for dessert? Like, dessert is a thing. Dessert, yeah, maybe when you go out to eat, but not every night. That's insane. So anyway, I would just do away with it. But also, the amount of families I work with, and it is equally astounding to me, is my 3-year-old won't let me. He won't let me put that on this plate. He won't let me cook that. He won't let me sit next to him. He won't let me. Whoa, I'll do a whole nother little podcast about tiny dictators. Your 3-year-old doesn't have money. Your 3-year-old doesn't drive a car, doesn't do the grocery shopping, doesn't have a prefrontal cortex yet. So could we not let the 3-year-old dictate all the grown-up things? No. So much of this is literally just holding a boundary. Remember, with picky eating, you are in charge of what goes on the table. They are in charge of what goes in their body. And I think also what happens for a lot of people is they don't realize that toddlers in particular, I would say all kids, have eating days and non-eating days. It's just a fact. There are days that kids just aren't very big eaters. There are some kids, in fact, Kate Pope calls her youngest daughter a tiny eater. There are some kids you can't, and her daughter's got like the beautiful, like chunky little belly rolls, and she's like a tiny eater. So some kids are tiny eaters, and we think they should be eating more, or they ate a lot yesterday, so we think they should be eating that much today. No. And that's how we back ourselves into picky eating, right? It's like, eat, eat, eat. If your kid's not hungry, let them go. Let them go. The whole 3 meals is a marketing campaign. Like, the whole idea that you have to eat at this time. No, none of that has to be true. And if your child is really hungry, they will eat. And I'm not saying you like, don't feed them. I'm saying don't try to overfeed them if they're not hungry. You put food on and they say, no, I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat. That's all right. Let it go. Serve the same thing. The other thing about toddlers is they often need to be fed something up to 15 times, 15 to 20 times sometimes, where they might touch it, they might throw it, they might lick it, they might look at it, they might move it off the plate. Now they might lick it. Now they might take a teeny little tiny bite. All good stuff. But we get in our head that like, nope, you got to eat it. Oh, nope, they didn't eat it. They don't like it. So create a beautiful environment around your table. And you can do that by not being stressed about freaking cooking every night, right? Make breakfast for dinner is always a hit. And so I just think we've gotten really far from like what is actual nutrition? Nutrition is the building block of our cells. It is everything. It is what we are. And again, if like think about, I often think about this. We got into trouble with food when we started to get supermarkets. Like literally we used to have to go get our food and farm our own food. And then we had times of feast and famine. We had like the body was kept in check, right? The minute we started to get convenience food and be convinced that convenience is the biggest factor in food is when our health started to decline. And I just see so many parents, they come to me. The reason I have such a good track record with picky eating is not because people come to me for picky eating. They come to me with behavior problems or poop problems. And we dive into the diet and I'm like, well, no wonder you have behavior problems. No wonder. This is terrible. This picky eating, this child's getting no nutrients whatsoever. So I think I think it's an easier fix than anybody can imagine. It's not, I mean, I think it's simple, but not necessarily easy. But again, when I start backing things up, the biggest problem or sort of reverse engineering the problem, the biggest issue is that parents they don't have the mental or physical capacity to hold a boundary because they're so tired and tapped out. That's so not fair to the kid. That's so not fair. So we've done something that taps ourselves out. So now we just give in and now we create the behavioral problems. So yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's a sticky situation, right? It's sad. And I think this is a cultural thing, by the way. I'm not aiming this at any one parent. This was like kind of the overarching view I got from these emails, not one particular email, but I'm really concerned about you guys. I'm really concerned about the next generation. And I'm concerned about your mental health. I'm worried about your anxiety because all of these things are just like piling up, but yet we continue to dig our hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And I see this a lot on social media about meal planning, about food, about sitting and having, making nutrition sort of the basis of our lives. And parents will say, well, I have FOMO. I'm not missing out on anything. So I'd rather just eat out or eat in the car. And I think that is just incredibly sad. And I'm again going to be very, very honest with you. That is a young thought. That is a teenage wound. You're an adult. You don't get FOMO. You make the choices that are right for your family. Okay. And so if you do feel like you have FOMO and you need to be at all the things, I would seriously, if you have a therapist, investigate your teenage wounds, because that's something that has to do with like popularity, gossip, knowing what everything's happening. It's definitely, it's a fun thing to say on social media, but it's not cool. It's a teenage girl thing. Okay. So those were the overarching things. I think, remember, all you need is protein, fat, and carbohydrate. Like that, if nothing else. Everything else is icing on the cake, okay? You don't have to think elaborate. It does not have to be recipes. Salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder go a long way. Like, I don't know, I went almost a year and those were the only spices I used. And I loved every single bite. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy. And the simpler your meals, the more your palate chills out, the less you need these crazy flavors. Like, I went looking, I don't often chew gum, but I wanted to chew some gum. And the gum was like more flavor burst and flavor excitement and flavor this. And I was like, how about like flavor less? Because I have a pretty simple palate. When we do away with the palatable ultra processed foods, our taste buds change. Then things do taste better. Plainer things taste better. So all food for thought, but I think you guys are doing better than you think. Okay. And it can just be so much simpler. Bring it down a notch. It sounds to me like everybody's looking for like this creative from scratch, all the things. I love from scratch. And when I have the time, I like nothing more than serving a simple meal. But yeah, I'm thinking about putting together a short like video series, video course to like show how to stretch meals, like, how to roast a chicken, if you roast 2 chickens at a time, guys, you're going to have meat for the rest of the week. It's freaking awesome. And again, it can be made into so many different things. So yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with me on this one. And as always, I appreciate you guys listening, and rock on and put your phone down. Okay, bye.